Hello, it is Holly, and I am here to talk about a video I wanted to talk about for a while, and I keep putting it off because I don't fully know how to express my opinions on this subject, but I don't think it's going to get any better. So I think I'm just going to do this rambly video in a hope that maybe some sort of thesis comes out, or maybe you will have an opinion and you can help me craft my opinion. Or like tailor what I'm trying to say. So as the title says, I want to talk about tropes as marketing in books, because I see this so much. Specifically, you see it in like Insta posts. I'm assuming TikTok videos, but I'm not on the TikTok. But I do see reels on Instagram. I'm comfortable going on Instagram. I just want to clarify, not that it really matters, but the reason I'm not on TikTok is because I used to be on TikTok and I found TikTok to be far too good at its algorithm. And I was spending far too much time on there. And I just made the decision that for my mental health, I had to be off of TikTok. Even if the content I was watching was positive, good, uplifting content, which most of it was not good for me in the long term to be scrolling for that long. And I find it easier. I do occasionally scroll reels or YouTube shorts, but I find them to be less addicting than TikTok, which is why I don't feel like I have to kick those off of my phone the way I did with TikTok. But like I said, I do see reels, which I think a lot of times are just reposted TikToks. And then of course you see this in places like book listings on Amazon. Now, I am very conflicted about this, and I feel kind of like a hypocrite. And this is something you see mainly in the romance space, and romance is becoming ever more popular right now online, and I think that that's amazing. As a romance reader, as somebody who's been reading romance for the majority of her life at this point, I believe I read my first romance novel when I was like 14 or 15, and it was Jewels of the Sun by Nora Roberts. I have a video where I reread it a few years ago. I am a huge fan. I was primarily reading romance pretty much always, but not creating romance content on YouTube because it wasn't like what people did when I started making YouTube videos. But I love that it's becoming more of a thing. I think that's amazing. I hope it's not just a fad. I'm sure it is to some extent. And like, I think like romantasy is very popular right now, and it's gonna ebb at some point. Like, it's going to happen. That's what happens. You know, the historicals, they surge. The paranormals, they surge. The contemporaries, they surge. Like, it's gonna happen. And I have theories on why romantasy is very popular right now, but that's not what this video is about. But I'm happy to see it. When I say that romance is such a big part of this, is because so much of romance, in my experience and in my opinion, is built on tropes. I've done whole videos about tropes, about recommending books by tropes, about tropes in romance. And it is in a lot of ways a marketing tool. Like, it always has been. And a trope, hold on, I should have Googled this. Part of this is, I feel like we're getting away from what tropes are. So apparently the Oxford Dictionary says a significant or recurrent theme or motif. So one of my big issues, and why I wanted to look that up, is do we even know what a trope is anymore? And not in like a dismissive, like, oh my God, you people don't know English. Not that kind of way. I mean, I feel like we're turning everything into a trope just to market it. And I think that it's hard, right? Because like, you need to catch people's attention, and things like the hashtagification of things. And don't get me wrong, I use silly hashtags all the time. And sometimes I wish we could just like call them tags and not call them tropes. And like, there are things like Katie Robert, she probably still does this. I just don't engage with her content as much as I used to. Part of it, I don't engage with a ton of bookish content anymore because I find that it makes me want to buy books, and I'm trying not to do that. So yes, but like whenever she would promote a new book, she would like, especially on her website, I feel like if it's still there, I will try to take like a screenshot of like a book listing for her on her website. And there's like a tags part. And the tags get so granular, but they're hilarious. And I will say that like sometimes stuff like that catches my eye and it intrigues me and it makes me want to pick up a book. This is why I say I'm conflicted. But I feel like in a lot of ways we are almost using tropes in place of a synopsis for a book. And there are a couple of things about this that concern me. Is one, are people just writing to a trope? It isn't the worst thing in the world to write because something is popular. You may have been inspired by a specific type of story, something like that. But I do worry sometimes that we're basically just churning out content to like feed an algorithm beast, even with books. And I guess like, I mean, is there anything wrong with that? I don't know. No, get your bag, but at the same time, like, do you really want to write that story? Or like, I don't know. That's why I say like I'm conflicted, because obviously do what you want to do and read what you want to read. But also I feel like sometimes people are writing that to hit, like maybe they're changing their story so that they can market a certain way. And I think sometimes the problem is the marketing, where like something like Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross was pitched as this enemies to lovers romance, right? They're barely enemies. Like, first of all, I would argue they're not enemies to lovers, but even if you do believe that in that story, it ends so quickly within that story. Now, I love that book. I gave it 5 stars. But it ends so quickly, and I just personally feel like that's not an enemies to lovers story if it ends that fast. But is that my perception of what enemies to lovers is? Is that what everybody's perception is? And again, like, is it a marketing issue? Is it a writing issue? Is it both? I do think it's both. I think depending on the situation, it's both. But also, I think using tropes instead of a synopsis, basically, to market your book is an example of a reduced attention span. And this is something that I have noticed specifically in myself. I find it very concerning. I find it incredibly concerning that I can't go without my phone. I can't, I literally sit on the couch, will be watching TV, and then be scrolling through stuff on my phone. As if my brain can't handle one thing at a time. And I will occasionally be watching a video that's 10 minutes long, and I'll be like, I can't do this. But it's fine. It's a perfectly edited, paced video. It needed to be 10 minutes. It's not drawn out. It's nothing like that. But my brain has become this shortened thing. And so I worry that can we not even read synopsises anymore? That just as part of a larger issue, it concerns me. I know that that's kind of a boomer take, I feel like, but it is something specifically because it's something I see in myself. I do see it in other people as well, but because it is something I have become very cognizant of in my own self, it really concerns me. And I do think that's the TikTokification of the world. And it's obviously not just TikTok, it's Instagram Reels, it's YouTube Shorts, it's all of these things. And it's just these quick, in general, it's the smartphoneification of our world, because it's definitely been for me since smartphones. It's one of the reasons I didn't want a smartphone in the first place. And is this idea of not being able to, I'm not going to go into all of that. There's just a lot there that concerns me. And I feel like this is potentially a symptom of that. in addition to it being like maybe an example of a shortened attention span, like we can't even read a synopsis. We need these like quick bullet point hits of like what a book is about. I feel like some authors are almost writing that way. Like they're writing like trope, 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 ending. And again, write the book you want to write, read the books you want to read, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to like basically hit like 10 check boxes in order to write a successful book. You can have a trope in a book. I love tropes. I think tropes are amazing as a romance reader. I love like character archetypes, like character, you know, I love a sports romance. I love a reformed rake storyline, you know, things like that. And part of the reason I love stuff like that is because you kind of have an idea of what you're going into a story with. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's because when people do so many tropes, or like I feel like they are almost just tags, and that's why you see them in like Amazon listings and stuff, is they are just trying to grab your attention as quickly as possible. But then are they doing that in the book too? And it's like single dad, second chance, secret pregnancy, sport, billionaire, romance. That's too much. That's way too much. Like, I don't know. I didn't promise. In fact, I'm pretty sure I promised you this would not be coherent. Now, I also want to say, I am part of the problem. I make graphics on Instagram where I recommend books by trope. And then within those, I do like little like quick bursts about why I think you would like this book. And in some ways, I feel like that is part of this marketing too. But like so I'm part of the problem. Obviously, like a lot of people don't interact with my Instagram, but like still I'm an example of this issue that I think is happening. And or like, is it happening? I don't know. You know, it is a trend, but I think part of it is I just felt like it's not dying. And so if anything, I feel like it's getting worse. I think part of it is maybe beyond the tropes as marketing, but something else I see on social media is people just basically like recommend a book and they'll be like, you need to read this book because of this like one line. And it's like, I get it from an engaging, eye-catching marketing perspective. But at the same time, like, is that making authors write books to try to write quotable TikTok lines? I feel like I've seen this in music too. Like, I'm not loving a ton of music that's coming out lately. And a lot of times when I listen to it, I feel like I hear like the chorus and I like the chorus, and you know that chorus is used on like Instagram, TikTok, like it's like an audio there, but because it's a shortened thing, it's almost like it's being written for that instead of the whole song being written to be good. That doesn't mean that all music now, like I am not the biggest music listener, you know, I don't listen to the radio or anything like that. I have been trying to like expand my YouTube, or I use YouTube Music, but expand my experience. So a lot of times now, like when I'm reading, instead of just listening to like the same few playlists that of like old songs listen to, or like I often listen to Taylor Swift as just like a comfort. I know it's easy to listen to, or like show tunes or whatever. I'm a big show tunes Disney person. YouTube will like recommend like mixes for me, and I'll try to listen to that and see if like there's something I like there, either in like the voice or the music style or whatever, and like add those artists and songs to my, like I have like a music playlist that I use, and I just like throw random crap on there when I like it. But I just feel like it's this part of this larger societal thing where we're marketing for like this, or like creating for this very tiny like bit of attention, but to create larger content. But like, can you really pin it down that far when it is larger? I don't know. This went places I wasn't expecting, I guess. I just, hopefully, yeah, I don't think this made any sense. And I doubt it'll make any more sense in editing. Like I said, I'll try to put up some like screenshots of stuff. And if I do, I will post who it's from, like if it's like an Instagram graphic or something, because I want to credit them. But I am in no way shading content creators for making content this way. I think that they are making content this way because it gets them attention, it gets them views, it gets them money, and I completely understand what they're doing. And I think there is nothing wrong with that. And obviously, I want authors to be able to market their books and to be able to sell their books. And like I said, sometimes this works on me. So, like, of course, it's not bad, but it's just like, I'm worried in like the old lady in me, I guess, about what this means for us going forward. And I have felt this way for a little while. So hopefully this makes a little sense. And I don't know, if you understand what I'm trying to say, or maybe you have a better thought process, or if you understand and completely disagree with me, feel free to leave that as well. Because maybe it'll help me. Maybe I'm just chicken littling this whole thing. If you did watch this rambly video, thanks so much for watching. And listening to me lose my mind. So, yes. I will see you next time. Bye.